So you're thinking about buying your first bike. Well, let me tell you something, Buster. Don't do it. Well, actually, I would recommend you do, but just know, it's a slippery slope, and before you know it, your entire bank account will be drained by these vehicles, and you'll be darn near close to living in a van at the bottom of a hill. Okay, well, that's not entirely true, but I will tell you one thing. Eventually, you will want another one, and another one, and another one. But I guess that's what this video is about, so let's get on with it. What the? Yo, I feel like the back of this rusty van in the mud back here is like the perfect analogy for my YouTube channel, because I haven't really been posting too much other than like bigger build videos. And this year I want to include a lot more behind the scenes stuff and more of my personality in the channel. So that's the goal. And I basically want to start off by showing you guys the garage, showing you my bikes, the state of the collection as it is at the beginning of 2024, all the vehicles I have, why I own them, what I plan to do with them. To start off, guys, yes, this van is my van. I actually bought this thing for 500 bucks. I bought it for 500 bucks, so I wasn't expecting too much, but I was hoping I would at least get it running fairly quickly. But when I started to dive into it, I realized that the motor is actually locked up. So this thing is definitely gonna be somewhat of a build that I'm gonna be working on over the winter here. Luckily, it's January, so we have 3-4 months of cold weather and snow. So look, it's a rusty van, it's 500 bucks. The floor has holes in it in some spots. It doesn't run, the motor's currently locked up, but I really think with a minimum amount of money and just some elbow grease, some welding, getting the motor going, I can actually make this into a pretty decent beater van to throw bikes in the back, to go camping in, whatever it is. I think this thing has the potential to be really sick. It's a 1988 Ford E150, and it has the 300 straight six Ford motor, which is a pretty legendary motor. I just need to get it running first. So this is like my most recent acquisition. I'm pretty hype on it, but right now it's just a crappy little creeper van in the back of the property here, sitting in the mud, looking sketchy. So I want to transform it from that, make it into something cool, but for now, it is what it is. Now, obviously, this garage is pretty big, as you can see, but most of the stuff in here is not mine. All the stuff on the wall is not mine. There's a jet ski sitting right here, not mine. Toyota 4Runner right here, not mine. And just to the other side of the garage from that, there's 2 Toyota pickups, literally run off propane and super huge 40-inch tires, also not mine. These are basically the guy who owns this garage, project trucks and stuff like that. But as you can see, interwoven between them all are my beautiful bikes. So that's what we're gonna go through in this video. Hiding over there is the RM125, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull it out and show you guys my pride and joy. Sitting pretty. This bike is basically the biggest build I've done to this date, and if you've been watching the channel for a long time, you would know this bike, I basically started on this thing. And I'm sure you know when I bought it, it did not look like this whatsoever. This thing was clapped for years and years while I was riding it almost every day, learning how to wheelie. And all the riding skills I possess basically came from this bike. Over the past year, I really decided that I was gonna put money into it to make it clean, to fix it up, make it look amazing, and finally get a Supermoto setup on it, which I have. So this is a 2004 RM125 Supermoto, freshly redone. The only thing I didn't do during the rebuild was basically the bottom end of the motor, but it's been solid and I had to save a little bit of money somewhere to make it look this cool. So the motor, eventually I'm sure I'll go over completely and fully rebuild the motor and everything to like pristine condition. But otherwise, this bike is great. The only things that it really needs is a new front master cylinder, because I'm still rocking the stock 2004 master cylinder and I have these huge Motomaster brakes on the front, but I just like can't take advantage of them because this master cylinder is not powerful enough. I really want to get a better master cylinder for this and basically learn how to do stoppies and just more crazy Supermoto stunts on this thing. The subframe on this bike is actually a little bit bent, so you really notice it on these Supermoto wheels when you drop back in a wheelie. The subframe is slightly off from center and it really knocks your weight off balance. That's one of the main things I need to fix. And then this thing is going to be pristine. I also have plans to eventually get a handbrake on this as well and really, you know, turn it into a full Supermoto 125 stunt bike, Euro style. This thing has always been like my learning stunt machine, so that's what I want to keep it as, and I want to continue to learn on this thing, continue to push myself. I'm going to go ahead and start this thing up, if it will. It's still a clapper, like I said. The motor could use a little work, but we'll see how she does. I actually started this recently, so I'm assuming it's going to start up pretty nicely, I hope, because if you let this thing sit for too long, it can take a lot of kicks to start it. Yikes. Let that idle die down a little bit. It's real rich. This thing for sure in the winter time, it takes a long time for it to warm up and it runs real rich at first, but once it fully warms up, this thing is a ripper. So yeah, that is the 2004 RM125 full Supermoto build. It's still a little bit clapped, okay? I'm not gonna claim it's the nicest bike ever. Definitely looking pretty is its strong suit. If you've seen the channel at all recently, you probably recognize this bike. So this right here is my 1995 Honda Elite SR50, which I recently, in my last video, built into a 70cc kit, performance exhaust. It's got a bunch of variator work on it, so this thing absolutely rips now. I mean, when I first got it, stock, it would go like 25, 30. I could still wheelie it, but it was super slow. With the 70 kit, with the exhaust, with the variator work, I can wheelie this thing 40, 45, like all day. It'll probably top out around 50 miles an hour, but I don't know what it is, but for me, I just love small cc two-stroke bikes. If it's a scooter, if it's a moped, even if it's like a 50cc Supermoto or something, I think mainly because they're so tunable, they're so customizable, there's so many aftermarket parts available for them. You could take a bike like this Honda Elite and literally make it twice as fast for under $1,000, which any other bike you can't do. So they're just cheap, they're easy to get a hold of, they're fun to ride, and they're super fun to work on and modify. You can build a bike like this to a 60 mile an hour 70cc build in like 1 or 2 days. I've never owned a scooter until I got this one. So comfortable, so enjoyable, and it's just a blast to ride. This thing's actually kickstart as well as electric start, but we're gonna see if the electric start's gonna go for us. That was so easy. Dude, I haven't started this thing for like a month and a half. And a bike that I haven't shown in a long time, but it's actually gonna be the next full build on the channel, is the Puch Maxi moped. This thing, I got it tucked away in the back over here. This moped here is actually the first bike I ever got. I've touched just about every bolt you can on this bike. I don't wanna show too much of it because this is the next build video on this channel, so that'll be out soon. I'm so close to finishing this thing, but I just keep running into problem after problem after problem after problem after problem that is pushing it back. You know, it's pushing the date back. When it's done, this thing is gonna be super sick. 1980 Puch Maxi, another two-stroke small cc moped. I just can't get enough of these small, slow bikes, and I wish more people got into them because it's like the ultimate bike for someone who enjoys building and working in the garage and improving things, because you can take something that's just like almost worthless from its starting point and make it into something so cool, so customizable. I can't say enough about these small bikes, mopeds, scooters. I'm hoping someday they catch on in the US, but for now, I'll have all the fun, whatever. I'm not gonna start this one because I'm gonna keep that secret for the build video, you know. Now there is a bike in this garage that makes my heart heavy when I think about it, but you know, it's just times change and things change, people move on, and that's basically what I did with this bike that's hiding back here. I guess I'll show you guys. I'm a little embarrassed to show you what it's turned into, but here we go. Back here, tucked in the corner, is the 2007 YZ450F Supermoto. I'm gonna leave this one tucked in the corner for now, covered in dust, because I'm actually gonna sell this bike. When I only owned the 125, this bike was basically the next bike I bought to make my main street riding bike. The two-stroke motocross bikes are really just not the best at cruising on the street. They're not comfortable for it. I decided to buy this 450 and build it into a Supermoto to kind of take place as a main street bike of my 125. And that's exactly what I did. I built this thing into a Supermoto from parts. I bought it in a bunch of boxes. It was a great bike for the longest time. It really never gave me any problems, and I'm pretty sure this motor has like over 300-400 hours on it. There's no hour meter, so I don't know, but this thing ran strong the entire time I owned it. I just parked it eventually because I kind of got interested in other bikes. This thing has been sitting in this corner, used and abused, just waiting for its death or something. This winter, I'm going to fix this thing up, make it usable again, make it a little bit prettier than it is, and probably list it for sale in the spring. It did what it was supposed to do for me. I learned a lot on this bike, and it was one of the most fun bikes I've ever owned, one of the most reliable bikes I've ever owned, but it's just time. It's time to move on, and I think this thing could be a great bike for someone else once I clean it up. This is the 2007 YZ450 as it sits right now. You'll see it in the future because I'm gonna make a video cleaning this thing up and selling it, but for now it's living in the corner of the garage. And up here is something that I'm really into, and that is pedal bikes. So I actually have one pedal bike here in this garage, if I can get it out of here. This was a dream pedal bike of mine for a long time, and last year I finally ended up pulling the trigger on one. So this right here is my SE Bikes Fast Ripper. SE bikes, they're basically made for doing wheelies and riding on the street. It's like a full-size BMX bike, basically. 29-inch wheels, hydraulic brakes, 7-speed in the back, I think. So it has gears, which is super nice. Riding pedal bikes like this when I was a kid, I wasn't allowed to have a dirt bike actually. So trust me, I begged my parents for a long time for a dirt bike. Didn't happen. So I had to settle for pedal bikes. That's basically what I learned how to wheelie on. I wheelied my old mountain bike for years around my neighborhood and, you know, learned balance point, learned the rear brake and everything. Pedal bikes always have a special place in my heart. Plus, I love the physical exercise you get from riding them too. Once I found out that there was pedal bikes that, you know, people really liked for doing wheelies specifically, I had to get one. And that's basically what I got this SE Fast Ripper for. In the summertime, if I'm ever just trying to get some exercise or take a break from the dirt bikes, this thing is coming out. And pedal bikes to me, you know, it's my childhood. It's a necessary thing to have in the garage, so I'm always gonna have a pedal bike around. This right here is a Fukari Libra, an e-bike basically. This probably gets the least use out of any bike I have just because it's not really, you know, the style of bike that I would typically ride. I mainly got this e-bike because I was hoping my parents could use it. My parents are getting up there in age and my dad actually has like a nerve issue with one of his legs. So he has some struggles pedaling a bike and I was hoping that maybe this e-bike would work for him, but it turns out he ended up getting like a trike version of an e-bike. It was just a little bit more stable than a two-wheel version. So this thing doesn't get too much use, but it is a little bit dirty because I'll throw it around off-road every once in a while. It's a sturdy bike, and like I said, it'll go like 30 miles an hour. So you can kind of like rip this thing on some trails through some mud. It's got fat tires. It's just not a main bike I'm gonna ride. If I was gonna get an e-bike that I really wanted, it would probably be something like a Sur-Ron or like a E-Ride Pro or whatever those new ones are. Something more like motocross, like mountain bike style that I could be jumping and ripping through mountain bike trails. This isn't really my style e-bike, but it is in the garage. It does get some use every once in a while. And the last bike, I mentioned that the 450 was my main street bike. You know, I had it for a long time, and if I wanted to ride somewhere on the street, that was the bike I was taking. But recently I went a different route from that, which is why the 450 has been sitting for so long. This one is probably the most controversial bike I have because I feel like a lot of people just hate on it, don't like it whatsoever. That is over here, that's the XR 150L. Look at this thing. Big freaking Bertha. This thing is actually the only bike in this garage that I bought brand new. This is a 2023 XR 150L from Honda. Definitely Honda's way cheaper side of bike. This thing is their bottom of the barrel to make it as cheap and affordable as possible dual sport. It's 2024 and this thing was first manufactured overseas in 2003. So it's over 20 years old. The technology is probably from 1980. It's got drum brakes in the rear, bottom of the barrel suspension. It's carbureted, but I basically got it because one, it was cheap, and two, this is the first bike I've ever had that was really, you know, designed to go on the street. My street bikes in the past have all been motocross bikes, have been 125 two-strokes and high-strung 450 four-stroke race bikes. But even that 450 riding on the street, they don't like being held at high RPMs, higher speeds for long periods of time. They have really short ratio transmissions. I wanted a bike that was, one, just more comfortable with the more comfortable seat, riding position, everything like that, and also way better at cruising long distance on the road. So that's basically why I got this XR. I knew it would be a reliable bike, a super comfortable bike, plus it's like a dual sport, so I can take it off-road if I want. I have actually taken this thing off-road. I've ridden it on a motocross track as well, and it didn't snap in half, so that's saying something, okay? At least it didn't snap in half. It's not complete garbage. I wanna get some knobby tires on this thing and actually do some like real deal enduro with it. Just put it through its paces and see what it can do. I wanna teach my girlfriend how to ride on this bike as well and let her ride this. So this is a super manageable, low seat height, comfortable bike that someone could really learn on. And if you want to start a bike that's kind of more capable than like a Grom or something, this is what you need. And it has electric start, a couple modern amenities, not really, but you can have a passenger on the back, which is sick. Go ahead and give this thing a start. This thing definitely wants a little bit of choke in the winter, and then after a couple seconds, you're good to go. I got it doing wheelies super good, so I can wheelie this thing all day long. I wanna get some better handlebars because these ones are kind of tucked back and more like street, stock, comfortable style. I could use some off-road handlebars, maybe some better mirrors because I literally dropped it twice and cracked them both. But yeah, outside of that, this thing has been sick. I really do enjoy it. It's what I needed, and it's perfect for just getting around on the street. So all in total, I own 7 bikes. The only bike that I plan on selling is the YZ450, but honestly, when when I sell that, I'm gonna wanna replace it with another bike, right? That's just how it always goes. So I have a feeling, I don't know next year if I'm gonna have more, or if anything, I'm just gonna have nicer bikes. My goal right now is basically to just go through my garage and make sure that every single bike I have is nice, is built how I want it to be, is running, so I can go ahead and use everything that I have. I don't wanna just have bikes collecting dust in my garage. I don't like that, like the 450. It makes me sad to look at, it makes me sad. This is the collection as of January 2024. So it'll be fun to look forward and see in the future what we're gonna end up with. I wanna just keep doing crazier builds, nicer builds. 2024, it's gonna be a good year, guys. I hope it is good to you as well. Let's roll into this year with some positive energy, some good vibes. Shout out to you guys for watching. The support on my recent videos have been pretty crazy. The scooter video literally got over 1 million, which is the first time that's ever happened to me. Shout out to you guys for that. It's all love. And I hope to see you around on the channel in the future. That's all I got today, boys. Peace.